of Galamsey, that's going to be our next conversation right now. And Daryl Boss is going to be joining us. He was at that meeting yesterday with the president and together with Franklin Kujo as well. But there are quite a number of your messages, which we'll get into. Musa Dankwa, the global lead for Global Info and Alexis. This one from lawyer Eduji Tamaklo says, good morning, Alfred, and to your esteemed panelists. I became worried listening to my senior Kwebu. I know Kipo, the Director General of the National Intelligence Bureau, a consummate investigator with over 30 years experience. I reached out to him personally for the reasons for the detention. The gentleman in question was arrested on Friday, the 26th of September for inciting the Gonjas and the Befo people, leading to the death of about 31 people. We presented him before the court on Monday, 29th September at the Accra Circuit Court 2, but the judge was on leave and we were sent to Circuit Court 3. The judge asked to see the charge sheet, adjourned the case to the following day, Tuesday, 30th September. On Tuesday, 30th September 2025, we were in court and we are informed the judge had gone to the bench conference, which had started on the 29th of September. The case was again adjourned to 6th October. So it is never the case that, this one is a forwarded message from the said National Intelligence Bureau Director. So I'm reading it verbatim. It says, it is never the case that we intentionally abused the man's right. Before the 48 hours ended, we presented him before the court, and it was no fault of the NIB that the judges were on conference and the case was not heard on time. Martin Kwebu then insists on the BNI granting the suspect bail. That's the point of disagreement. To suggest that he is doing so because of his stomach is not fair. On the 6th of October, the accused will be in court and the judge will decide. The situation in Benin is very fragile. It has led to the displacement of many Ghanaians to Ivory Coast. Says he will plead.
No, listen, Mr. Kipo should stop
with Senior Martin to exercise
this
small.
Let's explain. Let's explain. What did Eduji said? Eduji, I don't know. Eduji, did he really read? No, wait. Please, we are educating the public. We are educating. I'm not sure Eduji read it. He just, let's say, look, the Supreme Court says 48 hours is 48 hours. Please, those offenses are bailable.
Okay.
They are bailable. You took him on Friday. You arraigned him in court on Monday. It's wrong. He's supposed to be arraigned on Sunday. I have gone to court on Saturdays, public holidays, etc. The Chief Justice Eni Yebu at the time rolled out the roadmap, how it is implemented. You call the registrar of the court. Then the registrar would see which judge will sit on Saturday or Sunday. That is our law. About 9 years, or how many? No, not 9, 2019. At least 6 years ago. Please. I'm not sure did you read. No, let's continue, please. Let's do the education. I told you, Kipo needs training. Kipo needs training. I'm coming. Yes. I told him this. I told Charles Kipo this about 3 days ago. So you don't type such a message. His people are not well trained. So he should have gone to check that, this same people is saying that, no, you were supposed to arraign him on Sunday. Is it true? Is it true that they rolled it out? Because this of Kufu's last judgment, what we call her valedictory judgment, that 48 hours is 48 hours. So call the registrar. If you had called in to go all the way to Bafuboni, Chief Justice, that is the law. The law is the law. And then let's come. You see what they said. I'm very happy that, let's come. They said the judge adjourned it to Tuesday. The judge didn't remand the accused. The judge didn't remind. I'm not sure the judge didn't read it. This is incompetence. Crass
as you have stated, and then they respond.
And other lawyers have said we made it is that
Alfred, all I have to say is that we don't have to discuss this only as a legal matter. I do know the trouble that my colleague, the Member of Parliament for Solar Tuna Kalva, is currently going through as a result of the conflict in the Benin area. So we have to look at this in the context of the conflict and the threat that is involved, and also in the context of how our judiciary works. Because when I also, checked around, just as you made the point, I noticed that the claim that is made, and I can't say if it is correct, is that they actually took the suspect to court the first time, but the judge was not around. Yeah. They went the second time, the judge is still not around. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying we should discuss
There
this
are
also.
other courts. There are more than 10. Let's
Yes,
get it. There has to be a remand warrant. The
I
judge
get you.
didn't
I get
remand.
that.
And
I
that's
get
a
that.
serious constitutional matter.
I get that.
The Supreme Court looked at all of
these things that you have raised are very genuine and genuine.
incompetence,
But we also have to look at the concern of the security agencies
I think
who are
it's lost
worried.
on me.
Who are worried about what can happen in the
will use
area
it
and
as
what
a
is still
ruse.
happening in the area.
They will
But
use
I
it
agree.
as
I
a
agree.
ruse
I
to
agree.
abuse
I
us.
agree.
The time you
I
were in
agree.
opposition, these same things. We weren't saying just security.
No, I am not disagreeing with you at all. I'm saying that we should look at your views, but we should not also ignore the views that others are
It's
raising.
a ruse. I'm telling you,
Are you
it's a
getting it?
ruse.
That's the point I'm simply making. I'm saying that, look, the security situation in the area is still very
The
volatile.
man is not
very
it's around
volatile.
Slade Road area. I'm
Thank you.
telling you, we looked at that. They mentioned it, and we said we will know when to keep him.
Yes. So it's what since
Please,
you mentioned
let's stop
this,
abusing people's
and
rights
we're
in the
going
name
to
of
make-
security.
We're just going
We've
to
seen
get
it before.
into
Look,
the other
even,
issues. Gentlemen, thank you. It's some
yeah.
22 minutes to the top of the hour. Now, Al-Hassan Suhini mentioned Galamsey and matters arising. Also joining us in the studio, Daryl Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Arocha, Ghana. He was at the meeting with the President. And Franklin Kujo is the founding President of Imani Africa. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Kujo, good morning.
Pleasure to be here. Good morning, my good friends in the studio.
Perfect. Also joining us, Daryl, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to the esteemed panelists here. I've been listening to this morning session, quite interesting. I'm not really into the matter with the politics, but it was really good to follow and see how it works. So it's good that we're also now switching to a very critical issue also of national interest. So I think I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. Now, before we move on, I just want to put some matters to rest. Mr. Kujo, did Imani conduct any survey recently that indicated, the results indicated a total erosion of the goodwill of the 9-month-old NDC administration led by John Mahama?
Oh no, not at all. I think we said there was some significant. What word? We use a particular word. Disaffection. No, it doesn't well, a word in that regard.
Goodwill. He said they are will.
It doesn't goodwill, but we did say that some I forgot it, but for lack of a better word, what it meant was that the satisfaction people had from the beginning is actually waning, and which obviously should be looked into. And I think in one regard, one of the figures we came up with. By the way, this was not the poll. You see, in a strict sense, not a poll, because what we do, by the way, is we create. It's an AI created system that we bought, quite expensive, that crossed almost all Ghanaian owned social media handles from all the social media handles across. So we are talking about 36 million accounts, including Ghanaians in the diaspora, by the way. And then we also aggregate views or sentiments across non-social media website, like your own 3FM and then the Magellan and the rest. So in some regard, you want to call it a poll, but in actual fact, it's sentiment. The reason why I'm saying this is because what we found out was that there was some general reduction in the affection for the NDC party, and I think we put that down to a number of factors like the unemployment issues, the issues around some people who were sacked from work and they are still not able to find work, and even Galamsey, right? I mean, Galamsey also played a role in that particular sentiment analysis.
I see.
Plus, generally there are a few other things, but it wasn't significant at all. I think they had lost probably close to a third of the should I call it of the goodwill. That's what
so and you say it wasn't significant because the exact statement, and the reason why I bring you in, the exact statement by Dr. Zato is that you had conducted a poll, and the outcome of the survey was that this administration in the last 8 months has had their goodwill eroded, as in lost. And he says you, Imani, did this poll. did you do this poll that brought out this outcome, any outcome of a sort, that there's a total erosion, I think that was the expression, the total erosion of the goodwill of this administration?
Well, if you qualified it that way, I think total may be a bit of maybe too much, maybe exaggerated. I think we can say that there's some reduction in the how do you call it, in the affection for the party. But I don't think total erosion, not at all. Total would have meant that they were doing somewhere around maybe 30% or there. But I think we saw close to 60% as of now. Well, somewhere
We'll find another way to regulate.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I just needed you to clarify, because the integrity of Imani was on board this morning against the integrity of the statement of Dr. Zato. So now you have clarified your position and emphatically stated that this is not the case. Thank you.
No. Alfred, that's not what he said.
No.
Don't bend your credibility.
No. Listen, I think okay, let's not go any further.
You have a long way to go in this political.
That's not what he said.
He has,
said about 60.
And the only thing that can keep you going is your integrity.
If 8 months you've lost 60% of your integrity, of your popularity.
I think safeguarded. Let's say 60%.
I think let's save yourself.
Safeguarded.
Let's have this conversation beyond this.
If you to save myself, no.
Hold on, gentlemen. Hold on.
It's the only thing you have going for you in this public space.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, let's hear the president yesterday when he met the CSOs on this Galamsey matter. Take a look.
One of the important successes is the change in the whole issue of excavators. Excavators came in huge quantities. And I remember that at a point under the previous administration, they asked that permits be gotten before excavators are imported. Meanwhile, the law did not say you should get a permit after, but that was what we came to meet, that you bring the excavator, then you go to the Ministry of Transport and ask for a permit. But the law actually says that you must get a permit before you import the excavator. And so now we're enforcing that law. And so you can't bring an excavator in, you can't put it on a ship, and we're telling the shipping agencies, if you bring an excavator for which there's no permit, we shall penalize you, the shipping agency, for carrying that excavator here to Ghana. What are we doing to the kingpins? Because most of those 1,400 who have been arrested are young youth who are looking for something to be able to look after themselves. And we'll prosecute them, we'll imprison them. But those who run those operations are the ones that we must be arresting and imprisoning, not these little boys, And so we need to change our strategy. We can arrest the boys and all that. And I think that even if we send them, they should be given a leaner sentence by the judge, a slap on the wrist. But those who must be given, there's no slap on the wrist. What's the least sentence?
That's the president there. Darrell, you are at this meeting. Did this meeting tick the box for you, the expectation that you went into this meeting with, or it's another round table, or it's a talk shop conversation with very little conviction that something different and far-reaching was going to be done in the fight against Galamsey?
Alfred, so yes, I'm very happy that we're coming back to this topic and this issue. As you all know, we've been dealing with Galamsey for a long time. I would say, in this very current state of we seeing it as a crisis, it's almost a decade. And if you look at this convening, let me just try to respond to you directly. We actually went in not expecting much. I must be frank with you. You realize that we deliberately refused to even communicate. There were a lot of calls from media asking, what are your expectations? We said, look, we are going in with an open mind because we don't know what the president is going to say. And with that also, we weren't really keen on getting any real pronouncement from this particular. But I think what really happened, let's be frank, was that This serves the opportunity for the president to update the state, everybody, citizens, on where we are now. The state of Galamsey, the fight against Galamsey, the actions and efforts they are putting in place, and whether we are getting results or not. But I think also that if you look at the way the whole meeting was done, I felt it was as if the president was meeting with the media. But this was, you were going to meet CSOs. CSOs are not people who will take the information and just ask you 1 or 2 questions and then you say, okay, we are done with the meeting. It was almost like a 3-hour meeting, the way it panned out. And so I thought that, wait, we could have had more time to engage, but we saw that it was almost like the way the president meets the media. So you are invited, a lot of the sector ministers debrief on issues, on work they are doing, and then you ask, I think questions were about 10 or maybe 11 questions were asked by our own colleagues and all of that, and that was it. And then it was followed by the president's briefing. After that, no further comments, nothing, and then we're gone. And that's why I'm saying that it was more of a briefing, giving us information on what was happening across the fight against Galamsey, but not really an opportunity to engage the president and say, look, yes, you've made this point, but this is also some of the issues we've seen on the ground that will really mean that we need to relook at these strategies. And so for me, I think that, yes, we were all there, a lot of us were there, but we didn't get opportunity to really ask the very fitting questions that we really wanted. And also for a lot of the questions that were asked, we didn't see responses that really address the issues. And I say this because, look, I think most people, when it comes to this discussion, were looking forward to the president making some pronouncement on the call for the state of emergency. And I must indicate here that we as a coalition and also civil society have significantly moved on, particularly when the president met the media and said that, look, as a country, we are not there yet. So we were not going there expecting him to make any new pronouncement regarding the state of emergency. But I think what we also needed to hear from the president at this crucial meeting was that, look, you are saying that we are not there yet. Citizens therefore needed to be given some clear benchmarks and milestones that you think as a president will trigger. But I think the best we got was the fact that, look, I need to get some feedback from the National Security Council before I can be able to speak to this matter. That did not respond to us. And I must say that I have quite a tall list of quite a lot of issues that I know that the president, the session or the meeting really brought out. And as we speak to these issues and we go ahead, I will want to lay them out as we go, because they talked about, we're working on 5-point areas that they were focusing on. Talk about stakeholder engagement, regulatory reforms, law enforcement, livelihood and sustainability. And these are some of the issues that the president or the discussion touched upon. A lot of the briefing we received was all on these areas. But I think one thing I must say about this meeting with the president, he did acknowledge some mistakes. And that for me was a good side of the president in admitting that the early strategy of just pushing out or rolling out the military to go to the sites and try to clamp out these illegal miners did not go as planned. And that is why they had to re-strategize and come to now what I see as the government's main trump card, that's the NIMOS unit, which has been set up to really ensure that they go on the ground with boots, with men and women with boots on the ground to ensure that they deal with this canker. So I think it's for me a good side of it. But largely, there were too many promises.
Too many promises.
Too many promises, because these were also promises we had before the government took office. And in the early months, I'll say, couple of months when they were in office also, they reiterated these promises. And still, these promises are still on the table. We have not seen them being addressed, and these promises are still yet to be, I will say, addressed. So for me, there are still too many promises. Some of them are very good. We are certain about it. But it's about time we see the president of the land really live up to these promises and commit to them and really deal with them. They are very fundamental to we achieving very good results and outcomes in the fight against Galamsey. So far, from the discussion, a lot of activities, a lot of efforts are in the way, but are we there yet? That is a big no. So I think we really need to look at that aspect of it. And even though many have said, the president has had just 9 months, are we not expecting too much? But the truth is, coming from the crisis that we are faced with, and knowing that this government has all the power, and even within their own caucus, they agree that, look, the way this issue is, if we had the power, if we had all the authority, we would solve it in a few weeks and all of that. We should have seen more of these things being done. And that is why we think that a lot more could have been done within this 9 months. That has not been done. And going forward, I think that the promises are many. We need to see them being addressed as we move along. That is the only way we are going to win the fight against Galamsey.
I see. And you talk about the period that this administration has been in office. I think that was one of the references. The president did indicate that they know, or this administration knows, that this is a fight that will not or cannot be won within this first 8-9 months. Is it a point you contest, or you think that a lot more this fight could have been won within this period, the last 8-9 months?
No, I think we agree that it is not a fight that you are going to be able to wake up one day and then just shoot a bullet and you deal with it. It's something that must be progressive. But we are looking at how progressive it's been within the period, the 9 months that we were talking about. Look, if you compare the fight against Galamsey to how quickly the government was able to roll out things like the gold board and all of that, I expected several regulatory reforms. And General Galamsey, which was also going to deal with a lot of the impunity on the ground, should have been done by now. We had issues with LI 2462, and then even the review of Act 703 and all of that. We're talking about excavators being restricted in terms of imports and all of that. We are talking about tagging, licensing of excavator. All of these things could have been done by now and concluded and already operational. It's 9 months. Gold Board is actively in place, already raking in a lot of, I'll say, revenue for the country, and even giving money for people to be arrested for, being involved or escaping arrest and all of that. But we are still struggling with some of these fundamental regulatory reforms that are critical to ensuring that the fight against Galamsey is on a good track to being addressed. So for me, this is where we have a problem with. 9 months is quite a long time to have seen that some of these regulatory reforms are in place. And now let me also mention this. The government's track, like I said, for this fight against Galamsey, you can clearly see is going to rely a lot on the work of NIMOS in the coming months. Yeah. But even with NIMOS, you see
them on the screen right now, going to these Galamsey sites, burning some of their equipment and so on.
Exactly. Even with NIMOS, Alfred, they don't have the resources to deploy. Last week, the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources declared that our forest reserves and rivers are security zones. But Alfred, NIMOS is not even deployed to these security zones. So what is really the implication of you announcing that areas are security zones, but there's no security in place? So these are, for me, the keys. Are we really ready, as we say, to really fight this canker? And that is where the problem is.
And you say you don't see the readiness?
If you look at other sectors of the economy and how the government has been very proactive and all of that, the critical aspect of the fight against Galamsey and the readiness measures that we should have seen by now, I think we are still talking about. And that's why I said a lot of good promises, but we are not seeing them being fulfilled. And this is where it makes us really uncomfortable and really also kind of start getting frustrated by the way the government claims that they are really committed to addressing the fight against Galamsey.
Well, there's one issue that people came up in a different form, but it's still in connection to the 48-hour rule that you've been passionately and consistent about. We abiding by the details of that particular rule, not because you, together with the like-minded persons, got our jurisprudence to appreciate why this is important. The Attorney General referenced it as, in his word, not a challenge per se, but it's an issue they have to deal with, even with the fight against Galamsey. But this is what government identified as a root cause of Galamsey. This is a presentation that was done by the Minister in charge of Lands and Natural Resources yesterday when you were there with him to meet the president. And it says limited awareness of environmental and health risk associated with Galamsey contributes to its prevalence. Weak enforcement of the mining regulations allow illegal activities to flourish. They also talk about the issues. Next, you have the unemployment, poverty, and limited access to opportunities drive many to engage in illegal mining as a means of livelihood. Corruption among political officials and law enforcement agencies exacerbates the problem and undermines our effort to combat this menace. So, government acknowledges that there is some element of the persons who are benefiting from this being in the political class. As to what is being done to address it is another matter altogether. Do you see anything extensive being done to address this particular issue? Because this is a root cause that they have seen. They know the corruption among the political officials
And I've heard
in the fight against Galamsey.
I think you're very right. I mean, I was discussing with Ken sitting by me when this was put on the screen. They were like, wait, point 2 and 4 should be the top. Should actually be just the root causes of why we have Galamsey with us. The other issues are really there, but point 2 and 4. Point 2 is about weak enforcement of regulations, and then 4 is on corruption among political officials and law enforcement agencies. That for us is why we are here. The crisis we are confronted with is all because of point 2 and point 4. Everything else is really very much of an underlying problem, which is kind of systematic.
The point 2 being the weak enforcement
of mining regulations.
I see. And then the point
that's
4.
And then point 4, which has to do with corruption of political officials and law enforcement. I mean, there are people, whether there is jobs or not, people in many communities are really struggling to find livelihood, and some are struggling to find jobs and all of that. But I say this is because if you talk about, say, 15 years ago, and you're asking about, when people are talking about job opportunity, nobody will have thought about going to do Galamsey with the kind of impunity we see now. People will be thinking about getting a piece of land, going to do cocoa farming, or going to do some other agricultural enterprise to generate revenue. But now, if you go to the communities and if you ask them, if I give you resources, what will you do? Nobody will think about agriculture anymore. They will think about going to do gold mining, because we are very weak in terms of enforcing the regulations around the mining. And then also there's a lot of complicity of politically exposed persons, or even sometimes people in office, who are actually making sure that we are not able to really rein these issues in. So it is really the fact that some of these causes are really responsible for what we are faced with. But point 2 and 4 are the major reasons why we are faced with this crisis, and leading to our water bodies, our forest reserves, our food systems, and health being put at risk, not only for generations now, but also for the future generations.
People, I hear the Minister in charge of Land and Resources talk about the review of the mining laws. That's to respond to that point 2 that you referenced. And then also, LI 2505 will now be tabled before Parliament to...
No, actually, LI 2501 is the amendment of LI 2462. Yes.
So 2462 will be repealed.
Yeah.
When Parliament resumes.
Yeah.
And that would now be replaced by LI 2501. That is the amended.
But I think that is very curious, because it's not gone to Parliament yet. So how are we able to determine already that the new repeal act, the repeal LI would be 2501? Are we able to tell that already? Who knows? It's a law-making process, and there might be another law that might come even before that. So how do we even know that it's really going to be 2505? It's quite strange for me.
Okay.
On this one, quickly.
Yeah. So yes, in terms of the amendment and repeal, okay, what it is that, you know, even before this particular meeting, it had already been said that there will be a repeal of the law. So this is not the place the president is making the first pledge. I think it came in some weeks ago. And even prior to some weeks ago, they promised that the whole LI will be repealed. For me, what really got me, right, on the president's side was that soon after he won, the 120-day promise, I think in there somewhere, they said it. They're not going to do any more mining in forests. And that is very key. Very, 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 very key. So it's like, stop the bleeding. You see, we're already bleeding. Akufo-Addo was issuing mining leases willy-nilly, especially in the forest reserve. We know how many times I've mentioned the Tiwa forest case. And Daryl is one of my clients. That's Arocha, 2019. When they said, no, they need jobs. So let's go into the Tiwa and mine anyhow, right? But when the president took over, for me, the key thing is that he's promised, at least I've heard it not less than 3 times, where he's promised that there would be no mining in the forest. And that's huge. That is a huge step forward, right? And so, you know that even the 9 forest reserves that the Galamseyers were in, we took them back. Then the Galamseyers went back into 2. Then we went in back and flashed them, right? So my point is that, and now we have permanent security forces stationed there. And I always like to invoke Article 210 to say that it's the police duty, because Article 210 says that soldiers are for external aggression and other developmental needs. And if you go to 200, it says the police is to maintain law and order, right? So once now we have permanent presence in these 9 forests, for me, I think we should, well, short of saying celebrating, I think we should commend the government for it, because, you know, when you do that, then they see that we are following the conversation. That's how come for me. I saw that yesterday's engagement was very positive. Yeah. Because initially, some people I said, oh, it's a talk shop, it's needless. I said, how? It's for you to go and make a new pitch to the president. Like we say locally, we sit here and talk. He hasn't seen you in person, but when you go and then you have an opportunity to make a new pitch, you see that even the arguments get refined. Because yesterday, one thing I followed was that, you know, hitherto we had all been talking about turbidity. But yesterday, Ken Ashibe moved the conversation forward and said, Mr. President, it's not just about turbidity, but the quality, the best measure.
There's a water quality index.
Thank you. So you see how now the conversation is moving forward. So those who said, no, it's a talk shop, it's needless, spoke too early. How many times we started reading the Bible as kids? Are we still not reading the Bible? And for that matter, also the Quran and the Torah and all the other religions. So sometimes I think we should hasten slowly. So for me, the taking over of the 9 forests is a key step forward. And before even that, number 1 is the fact that no more mining licenses, mining leases, etc. in forest reserves. That's the big ticket. It's the big ticket, because that is stopping the bleeding. Then we've taken over some of the forests. So saying that the LI will be repealed.
I think there was an update from the NIMOS commander that the 2 that were lost out of the 9 have been reclaimed.
Exactly,
so
I mentioned it.
All 9.
All 9, yes. So it means that we've made 11 attempts, right? So that is progress. And so what we need, and I keep saying, is that perhaps can we get a daily update? Maybe 9 more should be.
Yes.
They promised it.
Monthly. No, they
Not
didn't
daily.
promise.
So that let's know
question
today.
that was asked.
Yes, because that's what we've been saying here. Because you remember this permanent presence in the forest, etc. We advocated for it here. Initially, I remember some of the people in your team were saying, oh, it's impossible, no, go and shoot and kill and etc. But eventually the president and his team saw that, no, let's put permanent people there, because you are coming to the forest and then you see that police vehicles are there. How are you going to continue? How are you going to continue? It's common sense that you've seen that the police are there. How are you going to continue? And so far we see that, no, the Galamseyers don't go and start shooting our police. Right? Thank God that's not the thing. Because some were saying send in soldiers because soldiers will create more fear. No. I think our people are being civil enough, and we are grateful that, yes, though they have arms, usually the arms are for their protection against robberies, etc., but not to harm our security agencies. So we are grateful for that. So now that we have the permanent forest, still answering your question. So for me, the repeal is like the icing on the cake. That's just the final thing. It's not the beginning, because the president announced cessation of mining in the forest long before. And he even, to be honest with you, you see, sometimes because of the way the advocacy is done, because we don't have enough time. Look, what happens is that the moment they took out that particular part, the first thing about the mining in the amendment,
section.
Yes, the rest could have stayed until we are ready to do an overhaul. But I see sometimes in the advocacy, people just say, no, repeal the whole thing, repeal the whole thing. I didn't support it like that because you have to put in a new framework. But I know sometimes the majority carries the vote. So you don't want to be saying things every time against the grain. But really, my point is that this repeal, it's not as if the repeal is going to bring anything new. Because let's remember that currently there are a few mining companies that were giving leases to mine in some forests.
Yes.
You know, Newmont, etc. They are in some forests. So you need this current law to regulate them. But sometimes, you know, it's just like the way we jumped onto the bandwagon. Oh, state of emergency, as if it was a magic wand. Then eventually, as the education started trickling in, we saw that, oh, it's not just about state of emergency. Whatever we can do now, we can do. The law doesn't stop us to putting more NIMOS and blue water gas officials on the ground. That's basically putting more boots on the ground, etc. Nothing stops us. We don't need a declaration of the state of emergency before we start taking action. And this one, let me tell you a two-line story. I'm not good at storytelling, but let's try this. Professor Kumado, you know, our venerable professor, constitutional law expert, this in the 70s, when they were in Commonwealth Hall, they used to entertain their female guests in their rooms in the night. Then, long story short, it came to a point, the hall authority said, no more female guests in the halls in the night. So they decided to go on an aluta. Then they got there, hall master came out and asked them one question. He says, so what entertainment can you have at night with your female guests that you cannot have during the day?
Right.
So meaning that we are not banning your entertainment.
Yes.
It's just the time that we are banning. Don't do it at night. So meaning daytime you can have it.
You can have it.
Then he said, they started looking into each other's face. What is he saying? What is he saying? Then that was the end of the demo. So that's the same thing. That was the end of the demonstration, meaning I just changed the time. So it's the same thing with this Galamsey fight. People were talking as if until we declare a state of emergency, we can't take drastic measures. I was like, how? The laws, and the president was very clear. We have all the laws. We've not yet finished deploring. And you're saying state of emergency. How? As we speak now, we've not declared state of emergency. But Amakufibua, NIMOS, the water guards, they are in there. The police are in there. We've made 11 attempts in respect of the 9 forests. We've banned mining in forest reserves, etc. Did we need a state of emergency before we start acting? You see? So for me, what we need, Daryl, maybe we should have that perhaps after 3 months, you make another appeal to meet the president. Let the dialogue continue. That's participatory democracy. Because in coming to meet you, I'm sure the president would have even asked for an update from NIMOS, etc. Then he thinks about ways to improve the fight. Yes, so it's by all means, let's continue the communication, the vigilance, because the more citizens stay vigilant and then hold duty bearers to account, then the better the outcomes. But I'm hoping that so now it's clear to us that we'll stop the rhetoric on state of emergency. Okay.
Right. Well, but the Attorney General raised concerns about how he's having to deal with the 48-hour rule because some illegal miners who are arrested are granted bail after 48 hours. And they go back to the pit to go and mine. And they are arrested again.
Like they
have to be.
He said they should bring them to Accra. So he changed the venue.
Let's hear the Attorney General say, and maybe you propose as to how this can be dealt with. Because he's also thinking about what
case.
Yes. So let's take a look at this.
And that looks like a problem Martin created.
I don't know why you say it's a problem.
Arrest. About 1,400, over 1,400 arrests. Now, the biggest problem we've had with the arrest is the 48 hours rule. Constitutional principle that we must bring them before the courts within 48 hours. Most of the judges have been granting them bail. So I remember the point that was made by Colonel Boa. When we arrested 9 people in Kumasi, he called me and I told him that immediately place them before the court and then ask for them to be detained so that we do our investigation. When they appeared before the court, Your Excellency, they were granted bail. Okay? Then they went back. He was very good in monitoring them. They went back into the forest. So I told him that even despite the fact that they've been granted bail, because they have gone back into the forest, they've committed a new offense. I asked him to arrest them, but to bring them to Accra, instead of placing them before a court in Kumasi. And I'm dealing with them now. They are in detention. We will not release them. We will make sure that even if the High Court says we should grant them bail, we'll go to Court of Appeal and go to the Supreme Court to ensure that we hold them until the dockets are prepared and then we send them to court. Currently, we have initiated prosecutions in 60.
So it says some 65 dockets, in fact, and the 65, not just for one. There are others that covers 10, 28 illegal miners as well. So in total, some 600 illegal miners are going through the process as well as we speak. Now, that concern of the 48-hour rule and having to be granted bail and then they go back to the pit to go and mine.
Yeah.
How can this be dealt with? Very quick one.
So, well, without hearing more about the facts, okay, it appears what the Attorney General did is partly correct. But if you ask me, yes, so let's develop that further. So he got frustrated and said, okay, now bring the suspects to Accra so that the prosecution will be done in Accra. I don't know how sustainable that would be because, you see, asking them to travel all the way every time from Kumasi is going to create some problems. But as I've said, I don't know all the facts. But they could have stayed in Kumasi, and then this time their behavior will be brought to the attention of the court. And no, I mean, judges are also part of our society. Once they see that, hey, Krachi, you were granted bail and this is what you went back to do, sometimes you would not be readily granted bail. You remember the what do you call it?
So there are circumstances that the 48-hour rule would not strictly apply.
It's not. It's actually even an amalgamation of the 48-hour rule and the non-bailable offenses. Right. So if that's non-bailable is payable number 2, and then the 48-hour rule is payable number 4. So the non-bailable one says every offense is bailable, right? And so once the person meets, subject to the discretion of the judge. So if you present enough, you make a good offer to the judge that, look, this and this and this reason. So I'm married, I have children, I'm gainfully employed, maybe we have this and this sureties, etc. And the offer looks good. The judge takes it and will grant you bail. But once you're granted bail and you go out there and willy-nilly return to it, the second time is difficult. It's difficult. You remember, Oliver, when the previous administration, you know, we did the demonstration the year before, and then subsequently there was another one. So you see that the second time getting bail for him, eventually they had to go to the High Court. It was a bit difficult because we're using this thing that, Oliver would, that's Oliver Bakavoma, would go out and do the same thing, commit the same crime, etc. But I see that even eventually with that one, he was admitted to bail. That particular thing, that because we granted you bail and you went back, we should ipso facto deny you bail. The courts don't accept it totally. They review it. After a while, bail is granted. Now, let's look at this. What the Attorney General was saying. Obviously, it is not a case where we have the police there. Now, we have presence in the 9 forest reserves. Has anybody come to say the Galamseyers have returned? So it tells you that that particular case is referring to, we don't have police and other NIMOS presence. Because how were these Galamseyers going to go past them? That's why I said, you know, Dr. Aine, let's understand this. My good professor, Aine is a good guy. You see, it's a public pressure, so he has to also, you know, adapt a bit. Because I can tell that table number 2, okay, that's a non-bailable. Aine was even more passionate about it more than me. I came and met Aine with it, attempting to do something, but he was busy. So eventually when we did it, he gave me some suggestions, add this, add that. He made an input. I see. Yes, Dr. Aine made an input when we were going to court. So it's not as if he's interested in just incarcerating people, but he also sees there's enormous public pressure. So, Charlie, sometimes you have to play a bit to the gallery. But I'm saying that if we had permanent police presence there and NIMOS guards, these people could not have returned. They could not, because so far we've not heard any story that we have our policemen and NIMOS at any vantage in any particular Galamsey area, and the Galamseyers have returned and penetrated that wall, that fortress. No. So maybe we'll appeal to Dr. Ayeni that after a while return them to Kumasi, because the best is rather to have the people in their localities, so that the cost of going to court, attendance, etc., will be reduced, because we should not unnecessarily burden the citizen. Yes, we are supporting the fight, and that's what we are doing here. Like you say, we are supporting it, except that like a human rights angle is also very important, because let's not forget those who were asking for the shoot to kill. Last week was when I left here that somebody reminded me the case of Major Mahama. You see how the Galamsey fight, yes, when they were helping to, protect, but because the citizens saw him, suspected that he's rather part of the Galamseyers, we all know what happened. So let's hasten slowly, let's continue to keep the laws whilst we fight vigorously, whilst we fight robustly, because we support the government that it must be fought. We are all drinking the same water, right? So if any tragedy comes, it will wipe all of us. So we are supporting the fight. It's just that let's also continue to follow due process. Otherwise, we'll cause some trouble. And then that's the one we say that the cure is even worse than the disease.
Indeed. And you see, the Catholic Bishops' Conference was at this meeting as well yesterday. They, in their statement, acknowledged what has been done and what they expect to be done. And the President references, together with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, a number of things that have been done, including the thousands of people who have been arrested, excavators that have been impounded, over 1,000 pumps as well, that's water pumps, and then also the tracking of excavators. And I think that's the one of the major takeaways as well. Darrell, you referenced that in our earlier conversation, that now excavators are going to be tracked. So get to know where it is and what it is being used for, as against the previous situation as we had it that excavators were not tracked. Dr. Zato, does this reflect the will to end this canker once and for all?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify something. At the beginning of this government's term, the Interior Minister announced a policy of deporting foreigners caught in Galamsey, that they will not be prosecuted. Has that policy been revoked? Has it changed?
It hasn't.
Or it's changed?
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
No.
So it means that if you are a foreigner, you are caught doing Galamsey, we'll buy you a one-way ticket to go back home. But if you're a Ghanaian, you're caught and you are doing Galamsey, we'll prosecute you and probably jail you. So that is the current policy still.
Are you sure?
In fact, I'm asking. That's why
I think Muntaka has. He came to clarify. I'm remembering that he came to clarify.
That was asked yesterday.
Yeah, he came to clarify.
So Darrell, you were at the meeting yesterday because there was a specific question on this, and there was a response to the effect that there hasn't been any policy direction in that regard.
Yes, I think in response to that, it was said that it is not a government policy, but an administrative arrangement. That is in place. But that's just the clarity. But that is still to say that it has not changed.
It has not changed.
It's still the way they treat foreigners as per the administrative whatever they have in place now.
So then Muntaka was there. But
he was at the meeting.
So I just wanted that clarity because
it was there.
It's actually,
and it was also one key question one of our colleagues asked as well.
That was asked.
Exactly. And so it means that it's still something that is enforced.
Okay. So under the current policies in this country, and especially at the Ministry of the Interior, if you are a foreigner, you can come into this country, you can pollute our waters, you can destroy, we can do everything. If we catch you, we will buy a ticket for you, put you in a plane or in a bus to go back home. If by the time we catch you, you have already exported all the money you've brought, if by the time we catch you, you have already sent all the money back home, it means that we will still, not only the fact that you've taken all the Galamsey loot back home, we will also still use the taxpayers' money to buy a ticket for you and take you back to your home country to go and enjoy the loot. Wow. Talk about policy confusion. How how do you say that there is will to fight Galamsey when you are rewarding foreigners and even Ghanaians? If you catch somebody from my hometown, Tumu, doing Galamsey in Eche Forest, you jail him. After, when you release him, you even give him a bus ticket to go back to Tumu. You don't care whether he's over or Fana, you don't care how he's going back to Tumu. But if he's a Chinese, after all the money he has made, after all the destructions he has made, you will still take him back to his own country and you tell me that it's a commitment. Look, please, Mr. Minister of the Interior, Mr. Government, Mr. AG, this policy, and remember, this policy came from somewhere. It emanated. I remember when Aisha Huang was deported. Right voices, genuine voices rose up to condemn it in a no uncertain term, and that was right. And that was what we made. Based on that we had the then presidential candidate saying that when he comes in, other things back. Today, why are we still treating aliens better and with kid gloves when they are destroying our country as much as that? Why do we hate ourselves so much that not only are we the ones drinking the polluted water in the forest, we seem to also be rewarding the foreigners? It's wrong, we should do that. So that policy, please, Mr. President, Mr. Government, part of the commitment to Galamsey must be said that we will treat all Galamseyers the same. Either we are sending all of them back home to their villages, or we are prosecuting all of them and jailing them. Don't treat foreign Galamseyers different from local Galamseyers. That's just a point. I'm glad the president met the civil society organization yesterday. Whenever the president of the republic meets people to talk, it's good. I love it. It deepens our democracy, and it is that's the president demonstrating his democratic hallmarks. That's the president saying that, look, I don't have all the answers, so I might not have all the answers. And some of you might have all the answers. Come, let's talk. So I'm happy, whether it was a Photoshop, whatever it is, the fact that the halls of government, the seat of power was open to ordinary people. Some of the people that went there, that was the first time they went there. That was the first time. Have you been to a jubilee house before? You went there yesterday. Yes. So good for you. Some people go there. So I'm happy that people have gone there and they've spoken. The question then I want to say, what after this? In the first place, before this, we were never told what were the expectations or what were the objectives of that meeting.
I think the objective was captured in the letter of invitation. No. You said we're never told.
We were never told, yeah.
But the objectives were.
It was, okay.
Yes.
So now, what is the plan? Do we have a plan to implement the recommendations that come there? One, I want to see a social contract like the one the president signed when he came into power on Galamsey. I want to see the president say, this is my social contract on Galamsey. I am His Excellency the President. One, that social construct should, one, define what success in Galamsey means. Not what, sometimes I tell my graduate students, define your concepts. Don't assume that I know what you are talking about. Right? What is your concept? If you say efficiency, what is your concept of efficiency and how is it being used in this context? One, the government or the president should define his concept. What is success to you? What will you take as success and what will you take as failure? Number one thing, I want the government to do that. Two, when do you think you can make that determination? Because when you give us the social contract, you say 120 days. And 120 days, you are counted to good people of the country. I was here, I applauded the president for that. So, Mr. President, when do you expect us to now say, okay, based on this timeline, you have achieved that set of objectives or you haven't? It's important because in public policy, when you leave everything hanging like that, then it will be difficult for us to hold you accountable when we don't know, one, what your success is, and two, when to hold you successful for that. Three, give us a detailed budget. I think somewhere they say we need a bigger budget. I like that. Budget is about resources. So the third thing I'm asking for are resources. That means budget and time. Tell us that, look, I need this amount of money. Even if it means taxing the people more to collect money to clean it, some people might agree. I'm not saying I will agree with that. Even if it means borrowing more money from the World Bank or the IMF to fight this, some people may agree. I'm not saying I will agree to that. But at the point is that, so without these three indicators, I don't see how we are moving the ball up the field. Without these three indicators, we don't see how we can then track and see how better you are doing. So for me, I want these things to be done. When they are done, it helps. Then thirdly, I come to the issue of the state of emergency. I still believe that we need a state of emergency and we need it now. Because it is within a context that we are discussing this. Mm-hmm. We are discussing Galamsey within the context of it being an existential crisis. When you say something is an existential crisis, you are saying that our very survival, not just as Ghanaians, that as a human species, is being threatened. When your very survival as a human being or as a species is being threatened, you adopt what I call an all of the above approach. You don't go into your toolbox and select the tools and leave some tools there. You adopt what I call an all of the above approach. That is why on this matter, I agree with the Ghana Catholic Bishop Conferences that we need a state of emergency. That's why I agree with the media coalition, and especially Ken Asigbe made it clear we need a state of emergency. The state of emergency raises a complete new mindset. A state of emergency addresses a fundamental social and even a psychological issue that, for the first time, Islam declared war. When Osama bin Laden and his people hit the towers, the American didn't say we can do. They declared a war on terrorism. And that war was, they used the military, they used intelligence, they used finance, they used everything. This is our 9/11. We should do that. And I was also thinking about something. I remember the night that, the morning that these gallant 8 heroes died. The whole country was asking the question, what can we do in their memory? What can we do to make sure that what they were going there is not done in vain? I thought that the president or this meeting would have announced the Gallant 8 initiative or the Gallant 8 project, something in honor of them. And that thing should have gone something like this. In memory of these patriots, we are banning all surface mining for the next 2 years, for the next 1 year. A complete ban on it. We will take a huge financial hit, yes. But for the memory of these people, it's worth it. And then, if possible, we will go to this Galamsey site and we'll put monuments there celebrating these men who lost their lives. That was a perfect opportunity for the president to do that. We missed it. I don't think it's too late. So I agree with the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference. I agree with the Media Coalition. We still need to declare a state of emergency because it takes us to a different level. It takes us to the level where we now say that this is what we are doing. So that we don't seem to be choosing things when we know that this can work. Finally, I have not seen any plan to trace the funding sources of these Galamsey. The small guys you arrest there cannot buy a bicycle, not only an excavator. Who are those bringing these excavators into the forest? I want to see a system whereby the government can say that, look, when we find any excavator in the Galamsey site, we can take the number of that excavator. We can send that number to DVLA. DVLA can tell us that the excavator is registered to Martin Pebu. Martin, sorry, I know you don't have an excavator. Then we can go to the Bank of Ghana and say, Mr. Bank of Ghana, tell us all the bank accounts that Mr. Pebu has. I know it's a lot, but don't worry. And that is a trace. And then we can say that the state can then say that we have the fact that we found your excavator at a Galamsey site. We then have the power to believe that you are a Galamseyer. They will freeze your account. Now, there may be a lot of law to go through that. That's why I believe in a state of emergency. I believe that in the state of emergency, you can do these things without lawyers like this, Cameron.
But now, if you were to find it under the law, okay, you can freeze automatically.
So why are we not tracing
people? Can freeze.
So why are we not doing
that?
And
after a while, before they go to
So why are we not doing that?
So that's how we say it's good they met the president and then pushed.
So one of the things that came out in responding to this, I think the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources did indicate that excavators that have been brought into this country, at least since the inception of this administration, are being tracked. There's a tracker on all of them to trace.
So that's good.
Exactly what they're going to be used for.
So my point is that don't just track them. I'm saying relate the tracking to the owner, and then relate the owner to the owner's bank account, freeze that account.
That's now, if it's found.
If it's found, the moment you find, if you find my phone at the Galamsey site, you take it, and then you trace to my name, you freeze my bank account. There's nothing in the account, by the way. Then the onus of proof becomes on the person whose account is frozen. You now come and tell me why your excavator was at the Galamsey site and why we shouldn't freeze your bank account.
Yes, when it comes to money laundering, that's the law.
Thank you.
That's the law.
So look, if we are able to do this, that means that we are doing something. We are hitting at the finances of Galamsey. We're hitting at the finances of Galamsey because if we only catch the small boys and girls who from my village who have come here just to do Galamsey distance, we are not winning this war. So far, we have not hit the finances of Galamseyers. So far, the state has left Galamseyers to enjoy all their loot. Let's begin to hit where it matters. Let's begin to hit their pockets. Let's begin to hit their bank accounts. When you do that in the future, they will withdraw. Because see, Galamsey is an investment. If I spend, I don't know how much an excavator costs, let's say it costs $50,000 to import an excavator. That means that I'm trying to recover that money. If the next day the government freezes my bank account and I cannot pay the bank or somebody for the excavator, I won't import another one. I won't do that. So please, let's do this. And some of this are practical. Some of this we can do them tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we can, in fact, with all the the excavator seas, we can generate those numbers today, and by tomorrow we can freeze all these accounts. In fact, you know what we can do with that money when we get it? We will give a large chunk of it to Mr. Sohoyene for the big push, so that you send a lot to my hometown.
Right.
But if we say all the excavators, were they picked up at mining sites?
Yes, those that were picked up. We hear there are some that are impounded, right?
Yes.
From mining sites.
Yeah.
Those are them. They will we'll give a lot of the money to him to go to, and they will send some to the EPA to begin reclaiming the forest.
But you have to finish convicting them first before you distribute them.
And instead of a emergency, do we have to? Thank you. So you now see why I'm calling for a state of emergency. I'm calling for a state of emergency.
No state of emergency should allow that.
I want you to allow that. So I'm calling for
because there's a constitutional protection, Article 20, your property. Okay, and 18. So they're the same.
The lawyers. I'm believing that. Oh, let me hear that.
Yes,
I'm believing that. My point is, state of emergency will let us hit their finances. State of emergency will let us hit their investments.
You can use the law. Like I told you, what is it that you can do
So why
now?
haven't we done that then? My question. Why haven't we done that?
I think so far the president said
It will
they've deployed.
So my point, ultimately, in summary, define success, give us timelines for success, tell us the resources you will need, and begin to freeze bank account of Galamsey, those who fund Galamsey. If we do this, we will see that the tide will begin to change. Anything other than that, we are losing the war.
Well, and talk about the financiers, Alhaji Sohoyene, that was one of the major promises of this administration, correct? That you're going to not only arrest the people in the pit, but also deal with the financiers of illegal mining, Galamsey. How far has this administration gone with that?
Alfred, first of all, I think that there's a need for us all to fairly commend the organizers of yesterday's event. It was very well put together. The outlook was different from the talk shops that we have had in the past, where money sometimes, got expended for nothing. I mean, I recall back in the day where we went to regions, and to traditional authorities, organized big seminars and events that cost so much money. You recall that I even at a point shared some of the, amounts that were spent in organizing fora on Galamsey and how to deal with it. I remember at one point about 1.8 million Ghana cedis was spent on one event, and we had these events across the regions. In the end, I mean, we didn't get anything. But yesterday's event was simple. It was simple. I mean, and it was not, outside. It was not at like a hotel where you had to, or the conference center where you had. It was simple to the extent that it was for me like a classroom, and then you had the president like the classroom teacher, and saying, "Look, we have this topic to discuss." It wasn't like a lecture. It was like, the kind of lecturer who comes to the classroom and says, "We are going to discuss this topic." That was the outlook I saw, and I thought that it was beautiful. It gave, the opportunity for everybody to freely express themselves when they were called. Not everybody had the time, though, because of, the time limitation that we had. But I think that the organizers really, really did a good job by the way it was put together. It brought all the different shades and different thoughts, together. And the presenters did a fantastic job, from the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources to the NIMOs and to the EPA. They all did a brilliant, presentation, up-to-date state of affairs as far as the government is concerned. And so I need to begin by commending those who put this event together and those who, did the presentations yesterday. And the questions that came out, then that is where I think that it's also very important that we commend CSOs like Darrell and Co. They have been very consistent on this matter. And it is admirable, the energy and the time that they spend on this, as if, their lives and livelihood depends on it. It's admirable. Yeah. I must admit.
Does, because
so
Galamsey gets worse, we are out there.
I know, but so I agree with you that their livelihood, all of us, our lives actually depend on it. So I think that it is important that we commend them too for the consistency. And His Excellency the President, I am sure, was very grateful, and he remains grateful. I think yesterday, even after the event, if you go and read the post that he shared on his social media handles, he is asking for the pressure to be mounted on him. He says, keep me on my toes. I want us all to succeed. So as I commend them, I will reiterate the president's words that you must not, give up. You must not relent in your efforts as members of CSO, determined to support government and to put government on its toes to achieve the results that will save all of us, that will save even the generations that are yet to be born. But you see, in this conversation and in this fight, we must guard against, victories that don't add to anything. Victories, the lawyers call it, what do you call it? Something victory. Fleeting victory, something. You use a word.
Yeah, fiery.
Parry victory.
Yeah,
yes. I mean, we should guard against victories that impact nothing.
Okay.
And big declarations that don't mean much. Right. We should be focused on the deliverables that will really, really transform the current situation. It's not about whether I ask for a state of emergency and it has been declared. No. That shouldn't be about it. It shouldn't be about I want a president to declare that he's put his lives on the line, or his presidency on the line. We have heard that before. We have heard all those big declarations before. We have, and what happened? So we should guard against victories, like I said, that will not impact anything. Okay, we have won. We have succeeded in getting the president to declare a state of emergency, and then what? But we should be looking at the measurables. We should be looking at the commitment to getting results that are, indeed meaningful to all of us. Look, yesterday when I was listening to it, a number of things came up. We all know that some of the problems we have had in the fight are largely legal. So the Attorney General was on standby to tell us some of the challenges. And also some of the approach that he is adopting with the government to deal with those challenges. So, for example, the challenge of, detention and the 48-hour problem. He says, that is a problem. This is how we are dealing with it. And that's not a promise. That's actually, part of the process of addressing the issue. It's not a promise. And so it shouldn't frustrate you. It should perhaps let you want to follow through and see how is he really resolving this problem. Then the issue of tribunals that he promised, that we are going to, that one is a promise. But he has also given an indication of how much work has been done so far. I think we should get closer and see how much work has been done so far and how much work is left to be done for the tribunals to really see the light of day. Because he says, I am working on the tribunals to ensure that we fast track some of the trials involving, people engaged in Galamsey. Then the legal reviews that were required. He also talked about it, and he agrees. And that's, again, something that must, encourage all of us. It is not as if the government disagrees that there should be a legislative review. The government agrees and assures that when Parliament resumes, LI 2462 will definitely be repealed. And in its place will be a new law. And he says, And we all know that in this country, it is the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice that monitors, the passage of these LIs and acts, and also monitors the numbering. So he says, look, we are working, and when they start working LIs, when they start working on LIs at the AG office, they assign numbers to it. Even acts, they assign to it. But it is after the process. If that number is still going to be maintained, it is maintained. Sometimes it gets changed because some other legislations would have gotten passed before it. But it tells you the commitment that, look, we are going to pass it. We have drafted it. We are waiting for Parliament to come. And when Parliament resumes, we'll lay it. And after 21 days, it becomes law. And so let us wait. When Parliament returns and then it is not laid for the days to start counting, then the president's invitation for you to put pressure on him is reactivated. Yeah. So I saw that, again, there is that commitment to prosecute, because the Attorney General told you how it was at first difficult to get, information on Akonta mines, and now the docket available, and his determination to ensure that by Monday he files charges against the kingpin. And here we are talking about the kingpins again. That is also living the promise of ensuring that we do not just focus on the people on the pits, but those who are funding and financing it. That's a big. I mean, to tell you that we are going to begin prosecution of a company like Akonta Mining by Monday is no longer a promise of dealing with the kingpins. It's an initiation of the promise of dealing with the kingpins. And it has to be seen in that light. Yes, he's not the only one, and one is not enough, but let us go on. That is the beginning. Let us go on to ensure that we get more of these people to face the law. I was encouraged by that. And then again, he talks about, even reporting party members for investigation. And that tells you the level of political commitment that we have, where colleagues are even willing to submit each other to, investigative bodies to either clear them. In fact, maybe some of you didn't even know that after the referral to the investigative body, a petition also came from the small scale miners. But he mentioned it yesterday. Yeah. That for me was additional information that, look, we even got a petition and we have forwarded that we are working with that petition also. Even though our colleagues are involved, we are not going to sweep this under the carpet. So that legal a framework in the fight was properly handled by the Attorney General. And I think that any fair-minded person should see the political commitment and the will and the desire to ensure that some of the bottlenecks when it comes to the legal issues are dealt with. Yes, we are 9 months in office. We will not be able to do all the things that have to be done in that field. But they say in Dagbani that forgive my use of the term. Martin understands. I mean, to wait, it is the initiation stage that if something will develop into a hernia. I don't want to go into that thing. but you see, so it is in this. Or as it is often said, that it is from the look of the chicken that that it will go into a cock or something. But that for me is something that we should not gloss over. Then the security concern also. So the legal aspect is there. Then you also have the security aspect, and NIMOS actually has given us, reason to believe that this time around the fight will be more deadly, even without the declaration of a state of emergency. I mean, they have given us that indication. And apart from that indication, which you can term a promise, they have also given us evidence of their determination by how they have so far recovered about 7 forest reserves, right? Or nine forest reserves.
Were taken, then they went back. So 11 attempts.
They have taken 9 forest reserves back. That should tell you. I mean, that's progress. I mean, if before 9 months ago, we could not enter 9 forest reserves in this country. That's dangerous. I mean, that's just like a rebel group taking over a section of this country. And so to tell you that within 9 months we have recovered these forests is not a promise. It is actually action driven. I mean, it is results driven by action. And it must be appreciated and supported. So they have taken back these forest reserves, and they have given the indication that it is going to be deadlier this time around. And they're on the ground, actually, destroying these machines where like he said, in situ, when they cannot, take it out. And they have the political support. His Excellency the President says, look, even when they come and, advise him to declare a state of emergency, he will be willing to declare a state of emergency. And again, I mean, you have the man standing in front of the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and everybody and saying that, look, we are coming after everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. So when he comes to your side, who again are you going to call? Which minister are you going to call, or which president are you going to call to ask him to stop, what he's doing, like we used to experience in the past? So I think that the security aspect also, we are assured that the fight is going to be thorough, and it has started. I was happy the last time the president met the media persons. He spoke on the IGP team and how it has been put together with the NIMOS team. And I think that was a very good decision, because you see, where you have parallel structures, especially armed and out there, you may not know what it can lead to, especially collision causes can happen. There may even be collusion and collusion at the same time can happen. So but where you have one central body with one control, center, then you know who to hold responsible when things go awry. But where you have different groups fighting at different angles, receiving their command from different places, you can get into issues of collision and collusion. And I think that it is good that they have put them together now. Then there's also the administrative bit of it. I mean, when I was listening to it, these were the structures I saw: the legal problems, the security issues, and then the administrative issue. And the administrative issue relates to the importation of excavators and how they are cleared, how they are tracked. And Tato, you see, made a very important suggestion, but clouded by, the political point scoring of, let's win by calling for a state of emergency. He misses the very good point that he makes. That, look, we can even go beyond tracking these excavators to tracking it to their owners and tracking it to their assets, including their bank accounts, and freezing it. I agree that it is a good suggestion that that should be taken on board. But that is an administrative role of the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and IOCO, and then the ports all together. And clearly, we have also seen, again, that is not a promise, that action is being taken to streamline and if you like, clarify the process of importing an excavator and also monitoring the usage of excavators in this country. It is clear that it is not a promise. It is actually something that is being carried out today. And these excavators are not just going to be licensed, they are going to also be geofence, as we are told. And in some cases, some of them have already been geofenced. They have been tracked and they are put out there and they have been monitored. So it is not a promise. It's actually something that is also on the ground. The blue water guards are people that are on the ground, also serving their purpose. Yes, they are just at about 1,000, and we need more of them to be trained to ensure that they provide the services that they are providing. The licensing regime. I mean, we know that currently there is no license for anybody to mine in a forest reserve. That is an improvement. And the system is being monitored to ensure that nobody, grants a lease on the blind side of any authority to anybody to mine in any forest reserve in this country. In fact, even at the Minerals Commission, I don't know how many licenses have been issued since we came into office. Because it's become so tight that it is not like before, where you could have like 200 and more being issued in 1 year. It's not like that anymore.
I see.
So that is progress that is being made that needs to be commended. And it is not for nothing that we have the turbidity levels of our water improving.
Yes,
We
the
can't
quality.
say that.
No,
we can't come to that conclusion as yet.
Some have improved. The
the
data
presentation yesterday,
I
the
think-
data
I mean,
showed.
yesterday we had
Yes.
serious issues with the data presented on the quality of water.
No. You
as
see,
was
I'm not
presented.
talking about quality of water.
Yes.
That's the point I was
Yes,
going to make.
exactly.
That's the point I was going to make.
Okay.
But that was going to be my second point. That look, it is nobody said this was going to be an event, and so even the successes will not be a one-time thing. And like the president assured, it's not going to be a flash in a pan. So if we have the turbidity, levels improving, we can move to quality. But turbidity is also important. Yes, turbidity, I mean, many things contribute to the quality of water, but turbidity is one of it. So if we say that we have improved turbidity, like the EPA presented yesterday, yes, we mark it as an achievement, but we demand for improved quality. Okay. And that is where you look at the cyanide and the other ions that are all in the water, and the need to ensure that we clean all of that.
But the discussion, the point that you are raising, I think what we need to maybe just look at is the fact that we were presented with data from July.
Yeah.
Data picked from site that NIMOS had gone to do some operations there. And between July and October, we've not seen this much of presence on the ground because NIMOS is still waiting for resources. And I can tell you, a lot of the areas, the Pra Rivers, all those areas, most of these areas, we even have serious situations where, and that's how come within the 3 months we've had Konyako and water treatment station being shut down. So I don't think that data presented was reliable enough for us to already jump to conclusions that our water bodies are improving. If you go to the ground,
let me understand you. Reliable in which sense? Is it that it is you suspect it is outdated and should be updated, or you are just saying that it was not correctly
No, I'm saying that data for me is obsolete now in the terms of the situation.
Depending on because of when it was done.
Exactly.
You say it is July.
Exactly. And within that period, we've had a lot of water treatment stations.
Let's say that we are looking at the glass in different ways.
Exactly.
Because it was taken in July, Darrell thinks that if it is taken today, it can be worse. Well, I can also think that if it is taken today, it may be better.
Hold on.
Are you getting the point? If it is taken today, it may be better.
Okay,
the reason why I'm saying that,
but I agree with
the point is that since that data was collected,
that we should update
we
that
have
data.
had several water treatment stations being shut down. Well, but so what is your justification for saying that our water bodies are improving?
No. Right. You see, this is a scientific. Darrell, that's what I'm saying. It says it should be a scientific conversation. The fact that it doesn't take a month or two for a water treatment system to take a decision to shut down. It would have been as a result of accumulated issues. So if before July they had those issues and they were managing, and then in August they shut down, it doesn't mean that between July and August there hasn't been an improvement in turbidity. There could be an improvement in turbidity, but there can be a deterioration in their plant. Are you getting the point I'm making? So the improvement in turbidity is not directly linked to the performance of a treatment plant. Maybe the water treatment plant has gotten worse over the years, and the turbidity will not. The improvement in the turbidity may not, impact the treatment plant already.
The main reason
so what I am saying is that where I agree with you, Darrell, is that July data needs to be updated because we are in September. But it is not. But in the absence, But in the absence of an updated data, it will be unfair to say that I shouldn't use the July data to say that water turbidity has improved.
I wanted an answer to that specific question earlier about what has been done to fulfill that promise of arresting the kingpins, the financiers of the Galamsey. That was a specific promise from you. So what has been done in that regard?
But you see, when I started, that's the point I made about how I was, happy to hear the Attorney General reveal that we began work on a company like Akonta Mining. We all know how big it is in the small-scale mining space and how difficult at first it was to get information. But later, they discovered a docket, and he has
spoken with the lawyers. According to him, the lawyers want the CEO to come on Tuesday. He is insisting that he should come on Monday, and that by tomorrow, so that they will read. No, Monday, 2 days after today, so that they will read his charges to him, and also what do you call it?
Prepare to go to court. You call it Miranda rights.
Miranda rights. They will read his Miranda rights to him and prepare to go to court. That is one example of going after the kingpins. Again, the assurance that nobody will be shielded, nobody will be covered, comes from the evidence that even party leaders of the ruling government have been referred to investigative bodies for investigation. And when that is concluded and any of them is found to have engaged in any wrongdoing, I'm confident that civil society will yield to the president's request to put pressure on his government to ensure that he delivers. We are not in any way shy or running away from the pressure of civil society. We actually, welcome it because we want to succeed together and build this country better for future generations.
Al-Hassan Suhini, that is going to take a little while at some point, but I want us to take a listen to the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Akuritinga-Ayine, on this Akonta mining matter. And Dara, I'll take your last words on this while we round up on this issue. As I indicated to you, we have a second part of this show's conversation focused on the President's and the United Nations General Assembly speech, and then also a number of things quite extensively that have been done at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In fact, yesterday there was some news that just come through, which was breaking news as of midnight. We will talk about it. The Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Ghana, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, is joining us for the last half or the last hour of this show. So stay with us. But this is Dr. Ayine. Take a look at this.
In 2002, the police conducted very diligent investigations in respect of Akonta mining, but the docket was hidden until we came to power. In fact, when we came to power and I started the investigation with the the Lands and Natural Resources Minister and the Forestry Commission, we were finding it difficult to get information. Subsequently, the police themselves owned up and presented the docket to my office 2 months ago. So as we speak, the charges against Chairman Wuntumi, Akonta Mining, and 5 others have been signed as I speak. Currently, we are waiting for him to be read his right to remain silent, etc. Before we've asked that he should be brought from.
That's Dr. Ayine there on the Akonta mining. Finally, on this. So beyond this engagement and the promises made, what next? Darryl, you were there at the meeting, so what next?
Yes, Alfred, I think one of the things that we've always been saying about updating and taking the citizens along, and I like what Honorable Suhini is saying, that look, the government wants to succeed with us together. And I think that is a very crucial point. And that's why we are saying that, look, this should not be just one quarterly meeting or update that the presidency is doing with CSOs. We actually need to have the presidency and all other state agencies, the Forestry Commission, the Water Resource Commission, the EPA, on a monthly basis coming together and updating citizens on the state of affairs, on key indicators on water, forest, and even now looking at how these issues are affecting our food systems. We will have to get the Ministry of Food and Agriculture also updating us on the kind of food available, the quality of food available to us as a people. So I think it is very, very important. So Honorable Suhini, please, I think maybe it's a point that you should push very much to the people at the executive level that, look, we need to have these regular updates.
I agree.
And we don't even need to invite CSOs to the presidency to do that.
Yeah.
We should do it as a state, kind of addressing the nation, updating all of us what is happening. That, for me, is how you take the citizens also along. And we don't always have to wait before we knock on your doors, before you put information out there for us to know what is happening. Then one aspect of this matter that, Alfred, I think we also need to look at has to do with the aspect of taking the fight also to the ground and empowering local people to be involved as well as monitors, not only the Blue Water Guards. The president talked about KPIs for MCs, DCs, and even police commanders. These KPIs, we, the people on the ground, we don't know what these KPIs are.
I see.
So how do we effectively even monitor the police commanders, monitor the MCs and DCs as to what is expected of them, so we can really push them to do what they're supposed to do? Because a lot of the issues about this fight also is coming from the local level. You have police commanders, district police officers sitting at the landscapes in communities and not responding to frustrations of community members. And that is an aspect I think that we should look at. There's been several issues of also some DCs and all of that. People are complaining that, wait, is this DC really serious about the Galamsey fight as the president is? How do we ensure that the people in the community, maybe somebody in Orechum knows really what is expected of the MCE so that they can demand accountability? Again, there are some issues that we have not spoken about. You see, in the past regime, Galamsey kingpins and some of their financiers used the courts and also the police to intimidate a lot of community people. And to the extent that these kingpins brought up cases against community members who are fighting to save their community water bodies and forest reserves and all of that. There are a few cases out there that I think that the AG needs to look at. There are cases of some people in our Toronto community, for example, who are being prosecuted for just standing up for their community right. And this is something that's very common in most areas where communities are intimidated. So there was a point that was made by the GJA president about the fact that we need to tell the stories. I think when the media is out there and is telling the story, we should also pay attention to the frustrations of the community people. It is really sad to go to communities and see them struggle to get water, see community people struggle to protect their farmlands from some of these, and there's nobody there to really provide them the very rapid support that they need. So, Alfred, on that note, I want to say that there's a lot still that needs to be done. And so far, we will expect that the president of the land will take the very decisive decision to ensure that these are there. I think the president must do more, and that is our expectation.
How about last one, there's a minute. We have to round up on this one.
Well, I will just want to encourage all actors in the space. I see a genuine commitment from everybody in government and in civil society. I see a genuine commitment to succeed. And so we, once again, I'll repeat, have to limit, discussions or conversations that will be focused on, glories that don't impact anything. We should be focused on collaboration that makes more sense and collaboration that gives us better results. We should see each other as collaborators in this fight. Once there is the genuine commitment from all stakeholders, then we should see ourselves as collaborators instead of seeing ourselves as we against them and we versus them. Because I don't see any, opposition now. What I see are sometimes disagreements about approach, which can easily be ironed out when you see yourselves as collaborators. And I want to thank once again the organizers of the event yesterday at the presidency and the CSOs for their contributions.
Well, question just in a minute on this.
I'm just going to say that, I like the note we are all standing on.
Yes.
Commitment might be very necessary to fight this, but in and of itself is not sufficient. Let's go beyond commitment. Let's put in actions. Let's keep that. And as I said, I love the dialogue. They said that they didn't invite me. So
thank you.
Don't say everything about me.
Thank you so much.
Let me say that I see the son of man around, the foreign minister around, and somebody said somewhere, and I agree that the way he's going, if we are not careful, very soon we will have visa free to USA.
That's an issue indeed that we'll get into shortly. Now we've had the visa restrictions imposed by the United States lifted, and as to what exactly led to that. is what we're going to get into. It's an exclusive conversation we're having with the Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Blakwa, here on the Cape
Mr.
Horn.
Council, you didn't give me the 1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. Forgive me,
So,
please.
yes,
Forgive,
so I
forgive
agree
me.
this is with what my co-panelists have said. Where I need more visibility is that I keep repeating, I think you've also even repeated, can we get a daily update that every day, where are we in terms of, okay, here, there, because it's the scale of it. You see, so far, people are saying that, no, they are not seeing much because even the media yourself, you don't have visibility. You see, so if we would get to know that, look, each day, these are the number of boots on the ground, etc., then it shows the commitment. You see, it shows the commitment, but once you don't have numbers, people will say nothing is going on.
Yeah.
They would, and then as soon as you see, what do you call it, yellow or brown rivers being shown on social media, then people say, oh, the government is doing nothing, government is doing nothing. So we need, I mean, up to the minute update. I mean, of course, that could be the extreme, but on daily basis, we should see what is being done.
Right. Thank you so much. And Daryl Bosso, thank you very much, the Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana. I also want to thank Alhaj Al-Hassan Soini. Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate it. We will have to have
in
this
touch.
conversation on this.
Thank you.
Big push, the next aspect of it as well. Thank you. He is a Deputy Minister in charge of Roads and Highways, also the Member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency